Hey there, fellow creators. Ben here from Cinder Studios, and I'm up in my home office and game room today because we need to talk about Adobe. So, unless you have been living under a rock for the better part of the past couple of weeks, you probably have heard the news about the company Adobe, who is most known for their very popular program, Photoshop. So, for those of you that maybe don't know, here's a brief rundown of what's going on. Adobe has come in under a lot of fire lately, primarily because of two main factors. Not that either of these things are extremely new, but it was like, oh, people are starting to realize what the hell's going on. So the first big one is that a somewhat recent update to Photoshop and Adobe's terms of services basically said, hey, we as Adobe essentially are going to take every piece of art, photo, anything you plug into our program and use it to train AI models, and you don't have a choice in it. Thanks! So it's like, oh, this isn't just data scraping images. It's like, we're literally going to steal all of your images and without your consent and feed it into our shit. And everyone's like, okay, no. No, don't do that, Adobe.
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care.
Let me tell you something.
We don't care.
And that's kind of how it has always been with Adobe, is they don't give two shits about their customers and anything that their customers want. From as far back as going from a perpetual license that was too expensive for most people to afford, to a yearly or monthly subscription service, which is, in the grand scheme of things, also too expensive for most people to afford. And now they're just like continuing to add tools that nobody needs, nobody wants, nobody asks for. And now this is like, oh, okay, cool, we just don't give a shit about you. And we're definitely going to steal all of your shit. So there has been a lot of pushback lately. Adobe has sort of walked back that policy, but not really. They're just kind of changed it a little bit. You can go into your preferences now and say don't. There was a thing. It was a check mark. Like if you had opted in for quality control stuff, like hey, a lot of software is like hey, let the software company access some data from your computer so we can improve the software down the road. Anyone who had automatically had that box checked also then automatically had, hey, we're going to steal all your images checked. Luckily, I was not one of those people that had the initial box checked, so I was at least saved from that section of that update, I guess. But it was still, again, like all this was done without the consent. The update for it that was sent out through emails, it was like, business as usual. No big major changes. Like, no, Adobe, that's a big major change that you should be informing your customers about. So a lot of people have canceled their subscriptions, and in canceling their subscriptions, they have found the other problem, and this has been going on for a couple of years too, where if you have not been a long-time Adobe customer, if you bought the yearly plan, you were then charged out the same amount of money you would have paid for the year anyways. Like, oh, you're going to cancel? Well, we're just going to charge you a bunch of money because you canceled. So rather than, oh, I'm not going to pay you a bunch of money, like, no, you have to pay us anyway. Fuck you. Because we're Adobe.
And life is a nightmare.
So, likely, and as a result, there has been this insane pushback, and not only from the customers canceling subscriptions, but also now from the U.S. government, who is suing Adobe because, like, hey, you can't charge people for canceling your services. That's not cool. And kind of illegal. So that's the short version of what's going on. There's obviously a little bit more nuance to that, but that's what most people are kind of pissed about. Myself included at this point, because for a long time I have been leaning away from Photoshop as a whole, trying to find some different alternatives. I did a review of a painting software a couple of years ago called PaintStorm Studio, which, now that I'm thinking about it, I probably should update. One cool thing about that piece of software, among some others I'm going to be talking about today, is that they are perpetual licenses. You don't live on a subscription for the service and whatever. And while subscriptions can be nice for, I'm on a budget, I'm going to pay month to month because I don't know how much I'm using the software. Something like PaintStorm Studio, which was designed from the ground up to be a digital painting software. I got it for $20 when it was in the early adopter range, but it's like $50 now, and I'm sure you can wait for a sale. Very affordable a piece of software that you then own, and they update it for free for the rest of existence, which is really cool. So, like in terms of Photoshop, I've mostly been using the same versions of Photoshop for the past 15 years. When I was in college, I was given a copy of Photoshop and Premiere Elements version 10. This is actually still the same version that I use today. I don't know what version it actually is now. It just says like 2014 version, 2013 version, whatever. At the time, this bundle was about $100. It is now $150. So, you know, rising costs with everything else. But 9 times out of 10, I am using the Elements version of Photoshop, and I'm still editing every single video I do to this day on the Premiere version, or the Premiere Elements version, which has starting to show its age a little bit. But as long as it cuts video together, I don't really care. I don't need a big fancy AI enhanced suite of stuff. I don't need that. I just can I put the video clips in, cut them together, take the audio up and down? Yeah, cool. That's all I need. So that's mostly what I'm running. Now I do have a copy of and do pay for a copy of Photoshop CC. Honestly, it doesn't do a ton more than what Elements does, and the same Elements from 15 years ago. And that's kind of amazing, actually, to me. For a long time, I was like, oh, it's like really scaled back. I mean, the interface is a little different, but not really. And at this point, I'm like, what am I actually really using Photoshop CC for? And it's like, occasionally when I'm need a little more finesse with adjustment levels, editing my artwork for like high quality stuff, for prints and uploads and things like that. Other than that, not much. Honestly, not much at all. Like, I can get most stuff done in Photoshop Elements. And I honestly wish more people knew Photoshop Elements actually existed, because it's like, again, it's like $50-$60 just for that one if you don't get Premiere with it. And it does about 90% of what you can do in full-fledged Photoshop, which is pretty good. I don't know if that's still the case. They may have changed things a little bit, but as far as I know, it is as Photoshop as it can be, with a decent amount of tools with it. And you can digital paint in it as well. I don't know if there's dynamic rotation if you're on a tablet, but other than that, like it's pretty good. So yeah, that's mostly what I've been using. But of course, I'm not an idiot. I know other software exists out there. So I do want to talk about some alternatives that are coming down the pipeline for me. And if I manage to, and probably will, cancel my subscription to Creative Cloud, I definitely have to find some other options, especially moving forward into the future. So the big question, of course, is, am I done with Adobe? And the answer is yes, mostly. As I mentioned before, I'm still going to keep using my copy of Premiere until I probably can't install it on any new computer, period. But I am looking at an alternative video editor as well, which I'll talk about a little bit later today. The issue I think a lot of people have is finding an adequate alternative to Photoshop, and it's why Adobe sort of understands they kind of almost have a stranglehold on a lot of creative fields and stuff like that. And well, 10, 15 years ago, that may have been the case. Advances in software and more and more companies producing high-quality programs that are, if not comparable, or just pretty close to Photoshop for a lot less money is a good thing. And technology has advanced to the point where there are a lot more options where 15 years ago there just weren't. It's like, well, you can use Photoshop or you can use GIMP, which sucks. And those are your two options. So you can have the free one that sucks, or you can have the expensive one that is amazing, but you can't afford it. Have fun! So there's actually a lot more affordable options out there now. And I've been looking into a couple. The first of which is Affinity Photo. Affinity Photo, anything I talk about today I need to test. I've installed them. I have not messed with the trial period or anything yet. And Affinity Photo is definitely first and foremost. You can guarantee all of these software. All the software I'm going to talk about today is stuff that will eventually have a companion video with it and going forward once I get there. Affinity Photo is the first in the pipeline because their free trial period is only a week from installation. So if I don't touch it this week, I'm going to lose out on that and I'll have to buy it. The good news is Affinity Photo is pretty damn cheap. They're currently running a sale, at least in times of recording, 50% off, so it is a fully fledged photo editor for $35. I guess it would have been like $75 or $80 normally, which is pretty good. So I'd like to, if it can work for my needs, and mostly my needs are going to be creating video thumbnails, which I can do in Photoshop Elements and probably a lot faster, but primarily to edit and make small changes to photographs of my artwork for upload and prints and stuff like that. That's really all I need it for. So if I can do that, hopefully I can import Photoshop files into it. If not, I may have to do some roundabout stuff with Elements, but you know, stuff to think about going forward. As long as it can do those things, it's perfect. That's exactly what I need it for. And for $35, I can't pass that up. Hey guys, Ben from the studio and from the future here, because I had to interject this. Affinity Photo absolutely sucks. I have no idea why this program is getting recommended as a Photoshop replacement. It is terrible in like every respect. The UI is completely unintuitive. It's impossible to find any useful tools in it. I couldn't even grab the corners and transform it and resize the image without like changing 4 different settings and then trying to do it, and it still didn't quite work right. I have no idea how, like the program just sucks. Interestingly, GIMP, which I kind of shat on earlier, has had some major improvements since the last time I used it, so I installed that, and it is 1,000 times better than Affinity Photo for simply basic edits, and it's free. So get GIMP. Affinity Photo can go fuck itself. Now, occasionally I will do some digital painting. I don't touch it as often as I used to, but I have been in the need in the market for a new painting program. Photoshop works. It's kind of been the industry professional choice for a long time, and of course Adobe has pretty much never acknowledged that people use Photoshop for digital painting. Like, it's your photo editing tool. It's the thing for professional photographers. It's like, you don't understand that like tens of thousands of artists use Photoshop for painting. No, they never acknowledge it because they don't give a shit about artists, as usual. And now we're getting closer and closer to this more of a mass exodus. So I had mentioned PaintStorm Studio earlier. Another program that has been on my radar for a really long time has been Clip Studio Paint. Clip Studio Paint, for those that remember it, for its old name, was called Manga Studio back in the day. I followed this artist for a while and always keep meaning to get back to watching more of his stuff, by the name of Jonathan Richter. He has been using Clip Studio since it was called Manga Studio back in the day. He's a comic book illustrator, does a lot of like alternate indie superhero stuff. Really cool illustrator. You guys should definitely check his stuff out. But I know he is pretty much a diehard Clip Studio Paint user and has been for a long time. For me, it's been one of those ones that's always like, yeah, I'll try it out eventually. It was actually, the install file has been sitting on my desktop for the better part of like 6 months, because I've been wanting to make a video basically being like, is this software actually any good? Is it this sort of Photoshop killer that everyone says that it is? And now that we are where we are with Adobe, I was like, okay, I actually have to try this now. Luckily, unlike Affinity Photo with the 7-day trial, the Clip Studio Paint free trial is 3 months, so I have plenty of time to play with it, which is good because I don't paint digitally that often anymore. But I've got my Intuos Pro 5 sitting in the corner charging up. I'm hoping to play with that a little bit later today, as well as Affinity Photo, to see exactly what I can do with each of them. I wrote all this down for the pricing. So Clip Studio Paint's interesting because there are 2 versions of it, essentially. There is the Pro version, and then there's the EX version. The EX version is $237 for a perpetual license, which is a lot of money. and I went through the comparison checklist, and the only real difference between EX and Pro, which in Pro is $54, which is notably a lot cheaper, comparable to the original price of Photoshop Elements. The only real difference between the two is the EX and more expensive version has more tools for animation. So apparently you can actually do, at least in the Pro version, up to a 24 frame animation, and EX lets you do it with more organization and more organizational tools and unlimited frames. But other than that, the cheaper version is as fully functional as the EX version. So I was like, this looks like it could actually be really good. So I'm really excited to play with Clip Studio Paint, and if I like it enough, I can guarantee you that it will, going forward, be my choice for a painting program, especially considering that it is built from the ground up for artists, which is really cool. Now, the last one on this list is something I've just kind of been kicking around in the back side of things. It's not something I have that I'm seriously looking into, but it is something that has been... It's come up a few times, and depending on how things go with my Photoshop alternatives, I could be looking into this long term, probably not this year, but maybe like next year and onward. And that is a new video editor. Not that there's anything wrong with Premiere Elements, so to speak. It does what I needed to mostly. I would really like if it had some sort of a way to isolate out speech better, because as many of you guys know, that the fluorescent lights that I light my studio with, that background hum is in every single video, at least most of them, and that's just something I've never been able to eliminate. Even with upgrading my mic system, it still picks up on that sort of low frequency hum. Now, when I'm in the studio, I don't really hear it. I don't notice it. I've been painting around those lights pretty much as long as I've been painting. When I was in my parents' basement all those years, they were the same kind of lights, so I just got used to that noise. But there have been a number of comments over the years being like, this is unwatchable thanks to this background hum. Part of that has to do with whether or not you're listening to my videos on headphones or not. I don't recommend that you do that, because it is a lot more noticeable on earbuds or a headset or something. But even with that, the old version of Premiere Elements, the audio cleaners just don't do it. They basically make it worse, essentially. So it's something I've really never been able to eliminate, and I know a lot of newer video editors have much better tools for isolating that audio out and cleaning that up. Now, in theory, I can do it now, but it would involve taking the audio out of every video file, plugging it into a different audio editor, cleaning it up there, re-importing it. That's a buttload of work that I just don't have to do. So if the tool exists in a newer video editor, that would be useful for me. Other than that, again, like as I mentioned earlier, I don't need my video editor to do anything beyond slice videos together, up and down levels for the audio, plug in a soundtrack if I need to, and export it. That's the only thing I need a video editor to do. Honestly, I would probably be still using Windows Movie Maker at this point if it wasn't a heaping dumpster fire. But even with that in mind, there is a point where it's like, I still need to upgrade at some point. A friend of mine actually gave me an old video card of his, which I tried to use in my computer, and it was really great for games, but unfortunately it basically broke the old version of Premiere Elements to the point where I literally could not edit. So long term, having a newer video card would be nice. It's actually my old desktop computer downstairs in the studio now, but if I can actually go back to making that switch, that would be nice to actually utilize more hardware options in my editor. Not that it's video card intensive, it's primarily processor and RAM, but that's all computer talk. But it is an important thing to think about, and that program, which I don't even know if I've already mentioned or not, is DaVinci Resolve. So the two big ones for the long time were Premiere and Avid, which were both Mac-based, and eventually Premiere made its way to Windows, especially with the Elements version, which again I've been using for 15 years. I love it, but it is slowly starting to show its age. DaVinci Resolve has been around for a while. I just never really got around to messing with it. There's a free video editor called Lightworks. I think I tried it once, and I was like, this is terrible. I hate this. Since then, I've never really looked for anything else. DaVinci Resolve is a bit more expensive. It runs like $240 or something like that. So it would be a significant investment on my part, but just browsing through their website, seeing what the software's been used for, which is interestingly a lot of Hollywood productions. I think going forward, it could very well be a great option, and I think a fantastic upgrade going down the line. But at this point in time, I'm not really looking for a new video editor. I'm mostly just focusing on sort of the painting, photo editing stuff. But with that being out there for a decent price, and I would say with a lot of these, so like Premiere, if I were to get the Premiere bundle for Adobe, that would be, I don't know, a couple hundred. It's like $100 a year basically. That's my Photoshop, the photo package or whatever. What pisses me off about Adobe, and this has always pissed me off as soon as they went to the subscription model thing, is for years YouTubers have been clamoring for Adobe to say, because it's like, oh, you can have the photo thing, the photo suite. So I get it's like Lightroom and Photoshop and all this other cloud shit that no one needs. And then you can have Premiere, but you can't have them both. I mean, you can, but you have to pay for them separately. So all people want is this thing that they do with the Elements package, but in Creative Cloud, and they have never done it. It's like, oh, you want Elements, or you want Premiere, and you want Photoshop? Fuck you, pay for them both. And it's like, ugh! So with buying something like DaVinci Resolve, it would be an expensive upfront cost, but again, like all of these softwares I've talked about are perpetual licenses. They're not subscription models. So you pay for them once, and then you own them, and you're good, which is huge. And if I can eliminate, a big yearly payment like that, like the $100, it's like $119 a year, which adds up over time. I've probably, since owning Photoshop CC as long as I have probably essentially paid the equivalent of the perpetual license. So at this point, it's like, can I just own Photoshop now? No, you can't. So, 2 years of Premiere is about 2 years of. It was about the perpetual license of DaVinci Resolve. So I think like that evens out and pays for itself very quickly. Anyway, that was very rambling. I should probably try to wrap this up. So some general takeaways here. I think that it's important always to try new tools. I mentioned this when we talk about art supplies. Expand your horizons, try new stuff. That's all this is I'm trying new tools, and if they work for me, I'm definitely going to be making the switch. Because I think I, as well as a lot of artists, like artists jumping ship on Instagram, I'm more than ready to jump ship on Adobe. I'm just done with their bullshit. I know a lot of sort of the AI tech bros will be something like, oh, you're just another panicky, overreacting artist, and AI is the future, and you can't deny it. You have to accept that this is here. There's a difference between accepting something is there and working with those tools, and just letting those companies walk all over you. If you just roll over and let it take over the world, that's your own damn fault. But if you actually make an active decision and show these companies that, like, no, this is what we care about, and what we care about is not plugging a photo in and letting AI fill out the rest of it for us. Like, nobody was ever asking for these tools. People have spent decades perfecting their craft just for you to say, like, oh, here's a way you can do it in 5 minutes. And it's like, what was the point of this? What was the point of this? Other than to piss people off, I think that might... And it's greedy. That's all it is. Like, just companies being greedy. But hey, that's the world we live in, I suppose. So, as I mentioned before, I'm trying these, at least in terms of the Clip Studio and Affinity Photo. I will have some videos companioning this one as I try those out and giving sort of my reviews and thoughts on them. I do think all of you should at least look into maybe trying out some new software yourself if you have been a long-time Adobe user, especially. There are a lot more options out there than there used to be, and I am actually pretty excited to give some new tools a try. As an artist working in this day and age, it is really important to safeguard your work and take control of your art and your brand. There are always people that want to steal art, but now that major companies are trying to do it too, it is extra important to take steps and take the necessary steps you need in order to protect your not only creative workflow, but to protect your work itself, so you can genuinely make better decisions regarding your intellectual property in that regard. So I know this was a little bit long and rambly, but much like the last time I did one of these, we need to talk about videos. This is one of those. It's important to talk about this for the sake of art, for the sake of creative lifestyles, for the sake of artists in the world, period. And I think it's definitely something that should be addressed a lot more often. I've seen a lot of artists speaking out about this, and I hate to add my voice to that long conversation, but I feel like if I didn't talk about this now, would have run into a lot more problems down the road. So if you guys enjoyed this rambly rant about things and want to see more topics that we need to talk about, subscribe here to Cinder Studios on YouTube. I also, if you were finding this outside of my regular set of videos, I make painting tutorials specifically for acrylics. I explore all kinds of different media. I review products. I take you along my own creative journey every other week in my vlogs. If any of that sounds interesting to you, I would encourage you to subscribe if you are not already. My socials are all in the description box below as usual. And this has been from Cinder Studios, reminding you to keep on creating. Hopefully not with Adobe, and I will see you guys next time.